And welcome to Afternoon Equality. My name is Christy, and today I'm talking to Cristina Cho, who is an Asian American playwright. She is working to not just create more Asian American stories to be told on stage, but also create opportunities for more Asian American actors to play those roles. This is not the first time I've talked to her, but I'm so excited to have her on the show. Let's get right into it. Hi, how are you, Christina?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm
Nice. Thank you
good.
for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I know we've talked a couple of times by now. So, I mean, I'm so glad to finally actually have you on the show and have you, get this recorded and really talk about you and your shows coming up and what you're doing. So, yeah,
Awesome. I'm
yeah.
glad to be
So,
here.
yeah. So to just to get us kicked off, to get us started, let's go ahead and introduce you and describe your journey to becoming a playwright.
Okay. My name is Cristina Cho. I am a Korean American playwright based in New York City, but I live in Jersey. I originally actually started, okay, maybe I should start in the beginning. I am originally from Gunsan, South Korea. I grew up here in Jersey. I'm an adoptee. I first started wanting to go into acting. Like I went into community college and I studied it here and there, and I also studied visual art. But I think what drove me to writing is, well, first of all, I've always loved to write. Like when I was a little kid, I used to love writing storybooks. And when I was in my preteen years, I used to read like crazy. So and what got me into playwriting is just the love of telling a story. And I think what also really drove me to is because honestly, I'm not a good actor. I'm a no, I'm a it's true though. I am a terrible actor. It takes, I think, a special skill to really be a good actor and to really be provoked easily. And I'm sorry, that's my dog barking.
No.
Um, and I just don't have that in me. So I feel like writing is a lot easier. A lot of it has to do with my personal frustration with the lack of representation of Asian Americans. Being on stage and film, almost
Mhm.
every entertainment media that you can think of. Um, so that's what took me into playwriting. 2016, I started writing my first play called Pink Leather. During the pandemic, I had a virtual production of it back in October.
Oh, cool.
And in 2018, I started writing my second play, Nuana, which is Korean for you and I. And I'm hoping to have that on stage, depending on, of course, what's going on with everything right now, by next year. Well, actually, I hope next year actually would be, you know, we can kind of sort of get back to normal.
Hmm.
I'm hoping to have that on stage by next year, in October. And I am also currently working on a third play, which is pretty spicy.
I
Not
love it.
spicy, not spicy in a way where it's provocative, but spicy where I wish I could tell you more, but
Yeah.
maybe some other day.
Yeah, we won't do too many spoilers today.
No, don't want to do that.
So something we've talked about, you and I, is the importance of you and your work as a writer. And you mentioned representation, but you also have mentioned to me that it's important for you to write for Asian American actors. So
Mm,
I kind of want to get into that a little bit, like why is that important for you? Because you mentioned representation in, like, in media, like, so on that side of the stage, basically, like as the
mhm.
actors, as the people on screen. So then you taking the spot of writer, like what in that position, like why is that important for you in this position as an Asian American writer to also write for Asian American actors?
Well, like I said before, a lot of it has to do with personal frustration. I grew up in the 80s and I was a teenager in the 90s. And back in those days, there was next to no representation. I mean, growing up, especially being an adoptee and not being around a lot of people who look like me, with maybe just a few friends. And actually, one of my neighbors, her daughter is a Vietnamese American adoptee,
Oh,
but they were the only Asians in my life.
right.
Um, but when you're a little kid, you always want to see that person on television or in the movies that look like you, that you can, I guess, kind of look up to, if you will, if that's the best way to put it. Well, in the 80s, I mean, obviously I'm a kid, so I'm not going to be, sitting in front of adult shows or anything like whatever they had back then or whatever. I don't know. But I used to, obviously, we had the best cartoons. My only representation, quote unquote, was from the cartoon Gem and the Holograms. And they had a character on there named Aja, who was a Japanese American, and she had blue hair.
Mm,
That's the only representation, I guess you could say, I had. And I had the
okay.
Aja doll and everything like that. And I had a few Barbie dolls that were Asian, but nothing fancy or anything, nothing big or fancy like that. But going into the 90s, I don't know if you remember, Margaret Joel had a sitcom, a very short-lived sitcom called American Girl. And
Okay.
you don't remember American Girl?
I don't remember that. I mean, like I was a child in the 90s, so I was watching
Oh,
cartoons and
okay.
stuff in the 90s.
Youngster. So, no, Margaret Joel actually
I know
had,
Margaret Cho.
oh, yeah, she's the
Yeah.
queen. Bow down to her. Margaret Joel actually had a television show called All American Girl, and it was, I guess, supposed to be that breakthrough sitcom for Asian Americans, but it didn't last long, unfortunately. So that was kind of my representation, if you for a while, but until it got canceled. Then it's like, okay, we're back to square one. And if you remember if you do you remember the movie Clueless, actually, with
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone? Okay,
Yes.
the only Asian character on there who's only in 3 scenes, her name is Summer, and she's played by an adoptee, Korean American adoptee actress named Nicole Bilderback. And she was like I said, my only representation. It just
Hmm.
frustrated me that she only had 3 scenes. I mean, there's one scene where she flicks her hair with Cher. She asked about Ty's moment at the mall, and she's carrying a Santa Claus into her car after a party. That's the only scenes of her in there.
Okay.
And and when I was a kid, I read a lot of books, and young adult books like R.L. Stein's Fear Street, Christopher Pike, the Sweet Valley High series.
I remember
And
those.
yeah, great memories, right?
Uh,
I used to write at the level of young adult because I'm a preteen girl or early teenager. And I always would write an Asian character, but when I wrote certain characters, I would imagine real life actors and actresses and movie stars as the roles of, say, like um, the lead or the romantic person. And it was pretty sad because I'm here writing, even though the Asian character wasn't always the center of attention, but she or he had a prominent role. I could not think of any Asian uh, actors for what I was writing.
hmm.
And I'm not just talking about Asians from Asia. I'm talking about Asian Americans as well. So it's like it got frustrating. And forward to the time when I started acting and everything, um, and looking at auditions, and this is back in like 2009 or whatever, or before, the only roles that I saw were accented roles, roles
Oh,
that came from, yeah, like you came right from the motherland.
yeah. You were like
Now,
fresh off the boat, as it were.
yeah, and I can't do an accented role to save my life here. I mean, okay, if you asked me to play maybe a girl from Jersey, yeah, I could do that. Or if you asked me to play like possibly a girl from Brooklyn, I could try. But to play someone from South Korea or Japan or even China, I couldn't do that. And it was just frustrating. It was like, so when I started going into writing, I thought about, my position, and kind of reminded myself it's my responsibility to really help a community of actors who share the same frustrations as I did.
Hmm.
So I made a vow that I will write for my peers and write roles about Asian Americans and or even Asian people,
Yeah.
because that's my biggest motivation, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of like all the like roles kind of being accented all the time, like generally when you write an accent into a role, it's because you want to mock it in some way. And that's also not
Mm,
fair.
no, it's not. It's frustrating to see them. That's a huge problem with actually male actors. I think with female actors too, but males, I've like right now, I'm doing research on Asian American men and the effects of how emasculinity and being um, parodied is the best way I can describe it on screen,
Mm-hmm.
and what that does to their psyche in real
Yeah.
life and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely not fair. And I think it robs people. I think it also robs people from our community saying we are real Americans, because one of the issues going on right now is with my congressman here in Jersey, Andy
Mm-hmm.
Kim. I don't know his opponent's name, and quite frankly, I don't care to know her name. Um, she recently, I guess, put a statement saying that he's not one of us and he's a Korean American. And
Oh.
yeah, I'm sorry. I read his statement, and he's basically, in a nutshell, said this is the kind of talk my parents have gotten, and it's hurtful. And it also goes to something that I think all of us have experienced, some more than others.
Mm-hmm.
We're not real Americans. Um, and and I think the fact that we're always put in the roles as the that we're fobs
Mm-hmm.
is unfair, because we're not giving it that chance to say that we are American just as much as someone who is blonde, blue
Mm-hmm.
eyed, and I know that there are actors out there who want to make that statement loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
And what better to do it in the arts, right? But how
Exactly.
can you
Yeah.
but how can you do that when they don't give you that chance? That's the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like there is something to be said about yes, we need more parts out there, but we also need to make sure we're
Mm.
allowing for more of those parts to be put out there.
Hmm. And I don't know if you feel the same way growing up yourself that way, but it's always been a frustration for me, always. And
Yeah.
it still is.
Well, it's hard as a kid. I mean, like, cause I, very similarly to you, like I grew up in a place where it wasn't super diverse. Like there was
Mm,
some, but I was still like one of only a very like literally a handful of other Asian kids in my high school. And so, as much as internally I didn't necessarily feel Asian or I didn't feel different from everyone else, but like there was always that there that constant of being othered because
yes,
even though I
that's
didn't
always
feel it,
another
I,
thing.
I I looked it, and even though like and like you don't really like it's one of those things you don't realize until you're looking like so I was in choir and so backstage and everything like it's not something you notice until you're sitting backstage in front of all the mirrors in like the dressing room and you realize
Yes.
like you stand out like a sore thumb you like a sore thumb
Mm,
like you
yes,
stand out whether you want
definitely.
to or not.
I it's kind of funny. I don't know why they did this to me. I guess because I was tall when I was a kid. I mean, I'm not tall now, but I'm 161 centimeters. But anyway, For those who don't know, that's 5'3.5". But I'm so used to saying 161 anyway. But I don't know why they did this to me, but when I during school pictures, they always put me in the center of all these white kids. And it didn't bother me, but I guess they did it because I was taller than the other
Oh,
kids. And now obviously the boys are taller than me, but
yeah.
it was weird. But I kind of I kind of had this weird attitude, like, okay, well, if you're gonna make me stick out like a sore thumb, I might as well just make myself notice. Like fifth grade, right? I wore this purple outfit, and I was very vain back then, probably a little more vain than I am now. And well, no, I get this from my grandmother because she always had a love for makeup and stuff. But I went to school with lipstick on for school picture day. And I can still
Hmm.
see my fifth grade elementary school principal, her name was Mrs. Aragona, coming up to me very sternly, when this picture is over, I want that lipstick off. I'm like, okay. But I went to school with lipstick on, and I was proud I did that. I mean, I guess that's making a statement in fifth grade.
Wait, what's wrong with wearing lipstick?
It was 1991.
Okay. We'll never really know.
1991 is a whole different year than 19. What? I'm sorry, we're not in 1990s anymore. Sorry, 2021.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was 30 years ago, and it's, I guess, okay, like for example, when I see kids these days and they have like highlights in their hair and stuff like that, you couldn't get away with that stuff back then because it was um controversial, I guess, which is weird. But I also come from
Interesting.
the era. Yeah, I come from the era when, even dyeing your hair purple and having a tattoo or a piercing was like, oh my God, why did you
Yeah,
do that?
shocking.
Yeah. And when I went into my 20s, going into the image of the Asian American person, where you always have to look, where people expect you to look a certain way.
Hmm.
Once I got tattooed and everything, and once I started getting piercings, and I got that reaction, like, don't do that. That was the adrenaline rush. Like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, challenge accepted.
Exactly. Actually, I got it today at work. One of my
Really?
co yes, one of my co I told my new hair plants, because I'm always changing my hair color. I was telling my new hair plants to one of my friends at work. I'm not going to say what it is because I want it to be a surprise. And she's like, don't do that. I'm like, I'm looking at her like, you're talking to the wrong girl. Yeah. Cristina Cho, rebelling since fifth grade in
I was gonna say some
1991.
might call you a brat for that.
Maybe.
But okay, getting back into the conversation about representation, what sorts of voices and experiences are you hoping to bring to the stage through your work?
Oh my God, there's so many topics to discuss when it comes to the Asian American community.
Right.
Um, I guess what I want to really show the world is who we are as a whole, but also discuss things that are, I guess, almost nearly taboo, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. Like Nuwa Na, for example, focuses on mental health in the Korean American community. But if you stand back, mental health is a taboo subject in the Asian American community as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't, as people are learning what the recent things that are going on, we don't talk about our struggles. But I think that's a very important topic to discuss because, um, unfortunately, there's a lot of us who have that idea in our minds that we shouldn't say anything or else we're going to look weak or we're going to make our families look bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the topics I do want to discuss. I also want to talk. more about how men are emasculated. I would love to see more leading Asian American men as romantic leads, and as that, how do you put it, sex symbol, if you want to
Yeah.
call it that. That's what that's what people say.
Yeah,
um
we need more Henry Goldings.
yes, or Daniel Day Kim's.
Yeah, Daniel Day Kim or you remember Daniel
um
Henney?
who?
Daniel Henney?
I'm sorry, I never heard of Daniel Henney.
I think he's either half Korean or but he was like literally like one of my crushes for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of like action TV shows, like spy things like that. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like look him up. Like you'll know who I'm talking about when you look him up.
Okay, definitely. We also need more Stephen Yuns.
Yes.
Have you seen Minari?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my God, you'll love it. But I will give you this little tiny spoiler. His character is not parodied at all. It's very masculine from my point of view, like
Oh, good.
a very stand-up guy, and it's like finally,
Yeah.
Um,
I just watched he voiced there's a show called Invincible on Amazon. It's like a superhero cartoon.
okay.
And so Steven Yeun is the main guy. And he is like and he his character is like half Asian, half white-ish. Like so J.K.
Hmm.
Simmons and Sandra Oh are his parents.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it's
That's
a
cool.
it was written by the guys who did or by the guy who did The Walking Dead. So it's gory for a cartoon, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Actually, remember he was in The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
He was Glenn. I've
Yep.
never seen it, but I know a lot of people love that show. And one of the topics I definitely do want to go into, or I don't want to say avoid, but okay, avoid in terms of writing a character like this, is women who are seen as the lotus blossom, the dragon lady. And I said this before, one of my biggest frustrations when seeing an Asian woman, an Asian American woman on these shows or whatever in movies, she would always be so quiet,
Mm-hmm.
very quiet. And me over here, I'm looking at this character like, speak up, say something. And that's annoying,
Yeah.
because I have to be honest, I don't know a lot of Asian American women who are very meek and quiet. I mean, we are probably the most strong-minded women out there, and that's something that that's something to definitely be proud of. And I want to write more roles like that.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm doing a good job with this
Yeah. Well,
so far.
I mean, just looking because I watched your video for Nuana and I like and
Oh,
reading through the synopsis
nice.
and everything. I actually did make a donation because I really want to see this, come to
Oh,
life.
thank you.
You're welcome. But without giving too much away, like, can you describe Nuana and your motivations for writing it?
Noana actually is to put, without giving away too many spoilers, is a love story. My, but not what when I was writing this, and I do this on social media, I tease things.
Mm-hmm.
I kept on writing, I'm writing a love story, but it's my version of a love story. It's not a rom-com.
Yeah.
I can write a rom com, but I'm not at that point yet. Where okay, rom coms are kind of annoying anyway. But anyhow, um, Noana is a love story, and what my biggest inspirations behind it were Truman Capote's novella Breakfast at Tiffany's, not the movie, the novella. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is going to sound controversial on my part because of the Mickey Rooney character. I did enjoy the movie, but I love Audrey Hepburn. But I'm a bookworm.
Mm-hmm.
The book is way better,
Mm-hmm.
and the character of Holly Golightly is more richer in the book. and if you want my opinion, more natural than what you see in the movie. But then again, it's Hollywood. Everybody wants a happy ending in 1960s Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even till this day. But anyway, my second biggest inspiration, and this is the overall inspiration, is Jonghyun's 2016 album "She Is." I based I bait in for those who don't know, She Is a concept album. It's in a nutshell about a guy falling in love with a girl, and the 9 songs he sings, which were composed and written by him, is about this character falling in love with this girl. And even though, with K-pop, it looks, cute and innocent, because sometimes that's, I guess, what they display. The album has a lot of sensuality and a lot of sexual undertones. And just how real this whole story was, it really stirred the imagination. It stirred my imagination to really write this story, because the main character is my interpretation of the girl that he falls in love with.
Okay.
But I wanted to write everything from her point of view, because I don't want to give it away,
Mm.
but how she expresses her feelings for this person, and how this romance that she gets in with him affected her, and affects her life pretty much.
It's like the other
Um,
side of the that love story coin.
yes, but this is the thing that doesn't happen in the album. They have a breakup.
Okay.
Um, and basically, because of how she's always felt insecure about herself, how she really felt like she lost herself when this breakup happened. And all the blame is on her. So she's like going into the aspect of mental health. She's really struggling to piece her life back together, and she just can't do it. And in her everyday life, with the people around her, from her best friend, her mother, to other people she meets, they kind of represent that everyday attitude, how people approach people who do have depression in real life and have mental issues, like, okay, or even like I discussed with you before, in our community, come on
Mm-hmm.
now, move on with your life, get over with it, deal with it. I missed how you used to be. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
And as you can see with the presentation, she breaks the fourth wall a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I have that is because you have to put yourself in her position and think about us. She has nobody to talk to. She can't
Mm-hmm.
talk to her friend. She can't talk to her mother. She can't talk to any of her friends. She can't. And she masks that the best of her ability, because she also lives up to the unfortunate model minority stereotype, that, not that I'm stereotyping us, but I think in a way I'm also trying to show people how people view us. We are the successful ones, the model minority, the ones who have the most successful careers. There's nothing wrong with us. We're perfect.
Right.
So this is my way of showing how some of us, you know, my way of saying, yes, some of us do struggle. And unfortunately, Jonghyun passed away in 2017. Um, he has succumbed to his personal his demons with mental health and stuff. So yeah, I definitely want to. I guess I also want to speak for people who, not just in our community, but for other people who seem to have the perfect life. And, if you look at social media, that's what we display,
Mm-hmm.
the perfect life.
Right.
But
You only see the good parts and not the struggles.
yeah, and you don't know. People, have that inside of them where they do have their issues.
Well, it's
And
always unfortunately it always seems to be a surprise when things like
mm,
when things like Jonghyun's story happen. Like
yeah,
it always seems to be a surprise, but it shouldn't be.
no, it shouldn't be. Well, he had a radio show called Blue Night. in South Korea, and he did talk about his struggles with depression and how he feel there are
Hmm.
days he had to struggle to get out of bed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that I don't know. I mean, I never was in his head or anything. I never really analyzed anything, but I guess that was his way of letting that out. I mean, think about, South Korean society too,
Mm-hmm.
and think about our society over here.
Right.
It's, unfortunately no different. And I guess for me, Noah Na is also that outlet for me telling people it's okay. You have the right to your feelings.
It's okay to not be okay.
Exactly. But I think it's one of the things that people need to really accept when they struggle
Mm-hmm.
is that they have to accept and they have to honor what they're feeling. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because people, no matter even with good feelings, like if you're like the happiest person in the world, people have a problem with that themselves. It's like they say, "I'm sorry, I'm just so happy." No, be happy. Come on now.
Yeah.
I think people just don't, and I think people just struggle with their emotions. I mean, if you're happy, be happy. If you're sad, be sad, and that's something that, um, unfortunately, damp, not damp, messes with our society now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give ourselves the right to our feelings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you said, especially I like, I think that this happens across the board, but especially in like Asian American culture where like we're not really open to being vulnerable.
Yes, definitely.
And like
I
and
hate being vulnerable.
exactly. And like, some people might say it's like a personal choice, but it's also, I mean, we've talked about this how it's like,
Mm,
my dad always told me not, don't be confrontational, keep your head down, all
mm,
those things like don't rock the boat, don't whatever. So like,
mm.
like so I was raised to keep a lot of things to myself.
Right,
And it's only like, through things like this show and just and now like finding, people within my circle who a respect boundaries would be like, who I feel safe to be honest like that with. Like, and it's all
hmm
and that like and that's only like a very recent development in my life is to allow that space for me to like to be honest about things like that.
mm. Yeah, that's another thing. You have to find people that you're safe with,
Yeah.
because I don't think people give others that cushion, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
Like, even some of your closest friends could be like that. It's unfortunate, but I'm the kind of person, like, if you're feeling whatever, go ahead. I don't judge.
Hmm.
If you're happy, I'll be happy with you. If you're sad, I'll give you some tissues. I don't do well with people when they cry because I don't know what to say. Sometimes I just sit there and I listen. But I think that's another thing with people with mental health. I think that's all they really want is they don't want to hear the feedback or advice. They just want someone
Yeah,
to
they just want to
listen to
vent.
them.
Yeah.
And after Jonghyun passed away, I don't know why I thought this. I guess this is me being a fan of his. I thought about what would I say to him, and I thought, you know what? I wouldn't say anything to him. I would just sit there and listen to him.
Hmm.
I'd buy him a coffee and say, "Here, let's talk. You can talk about whatever you want. I'm just here to listen."
Yeah. But okay, so how can people learn more about you and your work and support Nuana getting produced? Because you're trying to self-produce, correct?
Right now, I'm trying to. Yes, I definitely want to produce this piece. Obviously, I can't do it by myself because I learned with producing it because I wrote this. I not wrote. I'm sorry. If I wrote a book about producing, would that be today? I read this book about producing, and it's a lot of work. There is no way I can do it by myself, but I would love to have someone on board, but time will only tell.
Hmm.
Um, I have a GoFundMe. You can go to GoFundMe. It's called "Help Me Get Noah Na You and I on Stage." Social media, I am at Cristina Cho on Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot.
Okay.
Um, I have my website on Wix site. I would have to. It's hard to It's not
It's
a
okay.
basic www.com thing.
Yeah, I
Um,
can have all the links up on the show notes and everything. So we'll do that.
okay, awesome. I'm also on Twitter at Christina that underscore Cho, but
Okay.
I don't go on, unfortunately I don't do Twitter that much. Like I sometimes forget I have it. Um
I do that. Don't
and
worry.
I and I'm on TikTok, but the problem is I guess I don't know how to do TikTok, so there's nothing on TikTok, but I guess eventually I'll figure it out. I just need to find a Generation Z person to show me
Yeah.
the ropes and to find any reason to shoot videos of myself on TikTok, although I probably mostly use videos of my dog. I don't
Hey,
know.
I mean, there's an audience for that.
Yes, there is always, right?
Yeah.
So I
All
don't
right.
know.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming by and chatting. I'm very excited to get this off the ground. I know you said it would be sometime next year, but I know that there's still a lot of work that goes into it. I'm so happy to support you. And yes,
Thank
I will have
you.
all that information for you. But thank you for coming and chatting today.
Thank you for having me and thank you for your support.
Thank you so much to Christina for coming by and chatting. I'm so excited for Nuana and to see the work come together, and I'm so happy to support it. So, if you want to support it as well, I will have all of her information, all of her links in the show notes and in the captions, but also on my social media. So, definitely check it out. And if you can, please make a donation because this is a story that definitely deserves to be put on stage, and I can't wait to see it come together. Thank you all once again for not just supporting everyone who comes and talks to me, but supporting me as well. And yeah, I can't wait to sit with you again next week. Cheers.